Okay, I'm shooting this video to start with Spinoza, and if you want, what I've done is posted some lecture notes on Spinoza in the content section, so you can go there to check it out. And I'm going to try to get through much of this lecture one that I can in the next few minutes. So, first of all, I want to give you a little bit of background knowledge, a little bit of background on Spinoza. So, Spinoza uses what's called the geometric method. The geometric method he took from the Geometry, an ancient book on mathematics. The idea is that truth is easily understood and discussed. It's laid out for you in mathematics, particularly in geometry, where the definition of a square and a circle and a rhombus and a triangle, these things are ideal entities. They exist in ideal space, and they can be defined definitely and with truth. So Spinoza is going to use this way of presenting material the same way as you would for defining shapes and how to use them. He's going to use for ideas, in particular for how to live life. He names it the ethics, and he takes this from an ancient view of ethics. So again, the geometric method is going to be laid out with definitions, and then axioms, propositions, and then sometimes lemma. The most important thing for us, the definitions, the axioms, the propositions. The definitions are going to give you the key words. These are the key things to pay attention to. Substance, and affection, and mode, and attribute, for instance, in part one. And then the propositions are where he just sort of lays out how these definitions function, how they work together, and he's going to build up a world from there. What Spinoza is trying to do is create an explanation of everything, right? This is a theory of everything. Now, he's coming off of some of what was done by Aristotle. In Spinoza's day, Aristotle was still known as the philosopher. He was kind of the fundamental model of a great thinker. And Aristotle explained a lot of stuff, tried to explain everything. So the theory of everything is kind of the gold standard. It's the holy grail. It's what philosophers used to really want to achieve. Not so much anymore, but Aristotle claimed in his book, the Nicomachean Ethics, which serves as a model of doing ethics, telling people how to live life, essentially. He said that the nature of the science would dictate the degree of precision that you need to have for it. And some things can be really precise, like physics, quantum mechanics, for instance. Maybe you want to make extremely precise predictions. Whereas ethics, there has to be a degree of flexibility. So the sort of precision that Kant sought for ethics, Aristotle might have thought that's pushing a little too far. However, ethics was only a suitable science for people who had enough experience. If you didn't have enough experience in life, then you needed to just keep living life. You wouldn't know yet how to identify the good and appreciate it. But for Aristotle, the point is that good people not only know what is good, but they find joy in doing what's good. The rest of us, we might know what's good, but it's not the funnest thing for us to do. We don't want to do it because we don't enjoy doing it. That's not a good person. So a good person is the kind of person who knows what's right and enjoys doing what's right. Therefore, they don't have to make themselves do it because it's what they find joy in doing, right? So this is what we call virtue ethics. Virtue ethics is about becoming a kind of person, the kind of person that we want to be or that we ought to be, as opposed to just thinking about the right actions. Now, of course, the right person does the right things, but the right person does the right things because they find joy in doing what is right. If you have to make yourself do the right thing, if you have to force yourself, if it's kind of a chore, that's good. That's better than doing the wrong thing, but you're not yet a good person. A really good person is someone who doesn't have to make themselves do what's right. They just do it because that's what they find joy in doing. Now, the problem with becoming a good person is what Aristotle called akrasia. Now, akrasia is moral weakness, but really what it means is lack of skill. Akrasia means literally unskilled or lack of mastery, whereas enkrateia meant to be skilled or to have mastery. So akrasia is not being very good, bumbling in your living of life. And what you want to become is a skilled master of living life. If we think about this in terms of Heidegger, Enkrasia is where your Befindlichkeit is theirs, right? You're not the master of your own moods. You have not faced and come to terms with death as a defined way of living, as a possibility that you accept on your own. And your moods are not your own then, right? That is living without skill. That is akrasia. Your right and wrong is dependent on the world around you, not on you. So for Aristotle and for Heidegger, and we're going to see for Spinoza, the aim in living a good life is to live a practiced life of skilled mastery in doing what is right. Doing what is right is not a spiritual mumbo jumbo. It's not magic. It's not just following your gut. It's hard work. It requires a modest and constant effort at getting better at very skillful sorts of things that are small. You're just going to keep trying at these little things, right? So an excellent life is a life of skilled practice, right? Now, you can also fail to do what's right just by ignorance. You just didn't know any better. All right. So you can fail to do what's wrong or do what's right. You can fail to do what's right. That is, you do what is wrong because you lack the skill or because you lack the knowledge. Right. Now, we've already talked about Plato. I just want to remind you of him. Plato divided the human soul up into three basic parts. One was the appetites. These we might call the they. The second was thumos, or energy, your sort of motivating force. And then the third was reason. And the virtuous person for Plato was someone who was led by reason and whose appetites and passions followed the course of reason. Now, reason would allow your appetites to have a certain amount of room, and your thumos could still rage, but it had to do so within the bounds given by reason. And so a virtuous person valued reason above all and practiced reason. Now, we're going to take those ideas and look at them with respect to the ethics. Now, the ethics is written in 5 parts. Part 1 is on God. Part 2 is on the mind. Part 3 is on the emotions. Part 4 is on the strength of the emotions. Your book, it calls the emotions affects. Same thing, it's the emotions. And part 5 is on freedom from the emotions. Now, I'm going to quickly summarize for you each of these parts. Part 1 is on God. What Spinoza means by God is we are all connected. I'll shoot a video just on part 1 in a minute. Part 2, when he talks about the mind, he's going to tell you the mind is the thought of its body, and that the mind and the body are connected by this. The mind is the thought of its body, and they are both finite, whereas God is infinite. Part 3 is on the emotions, and the emotions are the source of good, blessedness, he calls it, and its opposite. We might call that, I don't know, shamefulness or madness. Desire is the essence of man, and desire is the basis on which we feel, love, and hate, and all other emotions result from these. So part 3, what he's going to explain is what desire is and love and hate. Okay. Part 4, he's going to teach you that we will always feel emotions because we will always have desires, and therefore our power over the emotions is limited, but insofar as we can cultivate reason and practice reason, we can develop some power over some decision-making influence over the emotions, and that's what part 5 is about, that we can have some freedom with respect to our emotions through diligent practice. Now, we're doomed to emotional life, and however, we are not doomed necessarily to being passive with our emotions. We can practice them reasonably until we become reasonable, and then our emotions are active. Okay, so that's lecture 1. I'm going to shoot another one over God in just a minute.